on hospital trolleys, 551 this morning. And 32 of these are in Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital in Drogheda, which is consistently among some of the highest numbers of patients on trolleys. Now, in 2011, when your government took office, there were 10,000 patients waiting longer than 6 months for elective care. Last month, there were 24,369. In my own constituency, always, I'm sure it's the same for all, Choctawdally, are inundated with people who are waiting for unacceptable periods for procedures. One man from Drogheda, Peter MacDonald, has been waiting for 2 years for surgery. Lily MacDonald is waiting an urgent surgical appointment for the removal of a growth on her face. And apart from these 24,369 who can't get surgical appointments within a reasonable time, there are those citizens who can't be discharged because your government won't provide the level of care in the home that they deserve. Now, your Health Minister, Leo Varadkar, has said the government's response hasn't been enough. The Minister is a master of understatement. You, Taoiseach, have taught him well, but the issues remain. Patients on trolleys, citizens without home care packages, elective surgeries cancelled. Meanwhile, your government last year paid $7.5 billion in debt interest, including private banking debt. So, Taoiseach, will you accept that there's a clear link between the hospital crisis and the pursuit of such wasteful and unjust austerity policies by Fine Gael and Labour?
Well, as I often said to you before, Deputy Adams, if money could have sorted this out, it would have been done ages ago. You mentioned the trolley count. Today is 17th of February. Trolley car numbers at 8 a.m. show 464 patients waiting on trolleys nationally, with 222 of those waiting for longer than 9 hours. Yesterday's was 445 on trolleys at 8 a.m., 248 waiting over 9 hours. Yesterday's evening figure showed the number of patients waiting had reduced to 235 by 8 p.m. and 103 of those waiting over 9 hours. Yesterday morning in Drogheda, there were 44. By 2 p.m. that was reduced to 22, and by 8 p.m. it was reduced to 18. The 8 a.m. figure for this morning shows 22 people on trolleys, half of that of yesterday. And the Minister for Health has pointed out quite clearly that the trolley waits are unacceptable, and he acknowledges the difficulties and the overcrowding that emergency department causes for patients, for the families and for the staff who work and do their utmost to provide safe and quality care in what are very challenging circumstances. You mentioned your own constituency in your own hospital. Drogheda has had particular difficulties over the last weekend, up to and including yesterday, as I pointed out. The hospital has treated 3 patients positive for influenza and a sporadic outbreak of novovirus in the hospital. That's been contained and isolated and hasn't had an impact on bed capacity. I'm informed, Deputy Adams, that the hospital is confident that there is no necessity to activate any ambulance diversion at this time. And the Labour Relations Commission last week, 22 agency nurse conversions, 66 nursing posts and additional healthcare assistant posts were agreed for Drogheda Hospital, with industrial action on this case suspended, as you know, until October, pending the putting in place of these staff, and I'm quite sure that they, along with the existing staff, will do their utmost to see that this is regulated in the best way possible. You're also aware that the Minister for Health appointed and convened the Emergency Department Task Force last December. That's to provide a focus and a momentum on dealing with the challenges that are presented by the current trolley waits. At their meeting on the 2nd of February, that task force considered a draft action plan to specifically address emergency department issues with a view to reducing the trolley waits in 2015 and the course of 2015. And the Minister is determined that the action plan is completed as soon as possible, and that the views of the task force are taken into account, and that they are made operational without delay. There are other measures being taken. There have been the HSE is accessing all suitable non-acute accommodation to the maximum extent possible to allow those that have been clinically discharged to leave acute hospitals. and the allocation, as you're aware, of 25 million did make a big impact here in terms of the delayed discharges in the National Service Plan, and that was utilised to as was planned, to provide additional funding for 50 transitional care beds to the Greater Dublin area, 65 extra beds to come on stream in Mount Carmel on a phased basis from April, and a range of additional home care packages. It's never easy, believe me, but it's a case of the Minister making the most effective decisions to regulate it in a way that those who need care and attention get the very best, and delivered by frontline staff who are very challenged in some cases.
Deputy Adams.
Well, Taoiseach, I asked you, would you not agree that there's a connection between your brutal austerity policies and the crisis in our health services? You didn't answer that. You hit me with a blizzard of stats, almost like a commentator at a horse race. Now, the fact is there is a connection, Taoiseach, and you know that, and you won't acknowledge that. That's the price that people are paying for your policies. Also, if I can have your attention, John Cordia. Thank you, Minister. Last month I raised with you twice a letter from HICWA, which said that if recommendations made in 2012 had been implemented, the risks to patients would have been significantly reduced. You promised to write to me, you didn't do it. I asked you again at last week's Leaders' Questions, you promised again to write to me. You still haven't done it. Now, I did receive a letter from the Minister to order a business query. This is from the Minister for Understatement. It only arrived into my office this afternoon, so I haven't been able to give it the type of consideration that it requires. However, what does the Tala report, what did HICWA say in 2012 about this issue of what you call trolley waits? It says, this is the recommendation, Taoiseach, every hospital should cease the use of any inappropriate space, for example, a hospital corridor or a parking area for trolleys, to accommodate patients awaiting clinical care. And what's the Minister's response in his letter today? You have to listen very intently to this, John Cordia. The Special Delivery Unit has developed a standardised definition of an inappropriate space, and accommodation of patients in inappropriate spaces is monitored by both the HSE and the IMNO.
Thank you. Question, please. Then.
This is Alice in Wonderland, or Leo in Enderland, where words mean what the government wants them to mean. But the problem, Taoiseach, and Tommy Cricknahan is concluded, the problem remains. Isn't it the truth that the rundown of our hospitals, the crisis that our people are experiencing every single day, is the price that your government expects them to pay for your brutal austerity policies?
I think the trampoline must be having an effect on you, Deputy Adams. You were asked a question yesterday or the day before how you proposed to fund water services. The clear implication of your response is to increase commercial rates and to increase income tax. Now you deny it again in here. Your deputy leader says it's a form of formulae. That's what's going to happen. So in respect of your link between challenges that the country faces and austerity, as you put it, you are the person who has said in here time and again that you do not want the monies that were put into AIB returned to the taxpayer. You want it retained in public ownership. You have said that on more than one occasion in here. And that money, of course, should be returned and will be returned to the taxpayer because of the mess that these people left behind them when they vacated office in ignominy just a number of years ago. Now, the Minister for Health did respond to you at length today, because I have his letter here, and it's a long and detailed letter answering all of the points that you raised. And he does say in his letter that you chose not to read out that the HSE disseminated copies of the HICWA report to all relevant care providers and requested local assessment of service provisions against these. And he went on to say, in focusing on the emergency care recommendations, the HSE wrote to all sites providing emergency care in relation to care provision in those appropriate areas.
Thank you.
And where care was provided in sites other than designated beds, it directed that the risks be managed appropriately. It's all there for you, Deputy Adams. You requested last week that you get a response. You got a response. You don't want to read it. It's a detailed response and it answers all the points that you raised last week.
Deputy Coppinger.
And increase commercial rates if you want, and income tax. If that's your view, you should say it out straight.
Deputy Ruth Coppinger, please. Thank you. Sorry, please. I called Deputy Ruth.